I love that term, live streamed. It's very cool.
Live's a good thing. Okay, we'd like to welcome everybody to our webinar this afternoon. I'm developing a curriculum for my building, skills and knowledge. This is our Wednesday webinar, and it's middle school today. Here's our disclaimer. We have intellectual property. I was so happy to write that. It sounded so cool. And our presenter today is Carol Daher, Dr. Carol Daher. She's former chair of the school counseling department at NYIT. She's worked with the state departments of ed, big schools, little schools, associations, all kinds of national organizations on school counseling topics of all kinds. She was on the group, on the committee that when we developed the new regulations that we work with now, and she continues to support us. And she'll introduce her voices from the field as we get to that point. So without further ado, Carol Daher.
Okie doke. Hi, everybody. And let me just switch screens here. And Bob, thank you for the introduction. Once a NYSCA person, always a NYSCA person. So we are happy to hopefully provide you with some resources, some tips, some ideas on how to not just deliver lessons, because that's not what today is about, but really how to build that curriculum and where can I find materials that are going to be helpful. Dr. Rotunda and I, Bob and I will, to the best of our ability, add things in the chat as we find them. We're going to ask you to add things in the chat because the more we share, the more we're going to learn from each other. And also, I'm very pleased we have two of our school counseling district directors who have brought some middle school counselors along with them today to also talk about their experiences. So I'm going to try and go through some basic slides fairly quickly so that we have plenty of time to talk about resources, show you the great NYSCA curriculum repository, 312 lessons there waiting for you. And last but not least, hear from our practitioners who do this work every day just the same way you do. So what Bob didn't tell you is I was a middle school counselor for 10 years before I became a district supervisor. So if you see me jump up and down out of my seat, it's normal. I think it's normal behavior for a middle school person. And so all of you just get up, move around, do what you need to do. So let's just take a second. Has anyone had a real success with a classroom presentation or lesson? What was it? How did it impact kids? How did it connect with the teachers in your building? So did a teacher ask you to do a specific lesson? Did your principal ask you to do a specific lesson? Just share one. And Bob, can you monitor that? Since I'm kind of behind the screen over here. See if we get a couple of good ideas. Anything coming up? Oh, we have to have successful people out there. All right.
We got 4 o'clock middle school counselors is what we got.
That's true. They don't remember today. It was a long day with the kids. But again, think about that. So much of what you're doing is successful. And before we leave today, if you do remember something that worked really well, type of a lesson, something your administrator asked you to do, teachers asked you to do, or you created, just drop it in. So our goal today, it's always good to have a goal. I'll quickly review NYSED's expectations and why the curriculum is now part of the new regs, or as we also call them, the amended regulations, which were updated last, before some of you were born, in 1978 was the last time that NYSED actually went ahead and revisited school counseling until 2017. We'll talk about strategies for designing and delivering your curriculum, your activities, your lessons. We'll familiarize you with that huge NYSCA lesson repository. And then let's spend a few minutes talking about how do you identify student needs or school needs, which is the justification and the rationalization for your school counseling curriculum. So way back when, and Dr. Rotunda can attest to that, probably almost 20 years ago, we started to push really hard to get the regulations updated. We had the NYSCA, we had the ASCA standards, we had a NYSCA model in the 90s. Oh gosh, we had the ASCA national model just coming out, and New York was just in the same place as it always had been. And so when NYSEG decided in 2013 to actually listen to NYSCA's voices, and they put together advisory committees and brought people together from all over the state, the curriculum component, that Tier 1 activity, was something that they felt was really important. And folks, you may remember that for many years, we didn't want to even call it a curriculum. We came up with all sorts of fancy other names for it because we did not want to be considered teachers. Now we realize that school counseling instruction is an important part of what we do, again, related to college and career readiness, academic development, and social emotional development. So what is the curriculum? The curriculum is really an organizational tool that's used to keep your lessons together. So lots of you are doing lots of different things with your 6th graders, your 7th graders, your 8th graders. Some of you may start your middle school program in 5th, and some of you, like our guest from Victor today, start in 7. But the reality is, a curriculum is a framework, and we plug our lessons into it. And again, the purpose is help our students acquire attitudes, which is really important, knowledge and skills to be successful in their school career, and also in their life after school and at home. So those SEL skills that you've been working on so carefully are so very, very important. The curriculum should reflect the needs of your students and make sure it is developmentally appropriate. Whoops, sorry guys, it likes to go by itself. So I'll just tell you a very quick, funny story. As a supervisor on Long Island, I had a counselor who only had one program she liked to do. And that same program was delivered for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. Thank goodness she wasn't bringing it to the middle school. But it was the same lessons, the same flow, the same format, where I felt that the kids, by the time they got to 5th grade, could teach it. It did not reflect the needs of the students, and therefore it was no longer developmentally appropriate. So again, paying close attention to what's needed at each grade level. So we know teaching empathy to our students is critical, important, getting along with others. It's going to look different in kindergarten than it will by the time our kids get to 4th grade. Again, we're going to use the ASCA Mindsets and Behavior Standards. Many of you know those were the revised standards in 2014, revised again in 2021, and they evolved out of the first ASCA national standards back in 1997. So we've had standards for a long time. Again, mindfulness and wellness are very much part of our lives with our students and SEL development. And that's so important that New York State has SEL benchmarks. And then, of course, we can look at the curriculum as prevention, not intervention, but prevention activities, getting kids engaged with each other, and again, seeing what they need as they progress from grade level to be proactive. So now I think you can answer this one. What in the world are you currently using in your building? Is it homegrown lessons that you've designed? Are you buying lessons from teachers paying teachers? Do you have a curriculum that you pay for? So let's see what comes out of this chat. Let's see what people are using around the state. And if you remember, drop in what part of the state you're from. If you're from Buffalo, Rochester, Long Island, Westchester, New York City, let's see where people are from and what people are using. Bob, do you see anything going on out there?
Yeah. And this came from the earlier question. A friendship escape room. That sounds interesting.
That does sound great. Yeah, we want to hear more about that one later. Yeah.
High school graduation requirements, motivation, snowball activity.
Oh, okay, great.
Each student got to write on their descriptions in the chats. If you want to read about them, it's kind of cool.
Excellent. And we're going to save the chat, folks, so we'll be able to save these ideas also. Is anybody using a bought curriculum? Is anybody using Second Step or Naviance at middle school?
Yeah, we got some second steps.
Okay, student success skills.
PPT.
What about, sorry, PPT?
Teachers pay teachers.
Oh, teachers pay teachers, yes. You want them to pay you for your lessons.
Overcoming obstacles for high school is one.
Excellent. What about Harmony? Anybody using Harmony? They're free. They're great. All right.
Naviance, yeah.
So we've got lots of different programs that people are using and a lot of you developing your own lessons, which is super because it really is based upon what you believe your students need. So let's talk a little bit about putting this together. First of all, one of the regs, it speaks to the counselors overseeing the process. So in other words, we may not deliver every lesson. Others in our building, including teachers, are delivering some of the SEL. We have health teachers and PE teachers may be delivering some related lessons. We may have home and career teachers delivering some career development. So there's a lot of different people delivering school counseling curriculum. But school counselors, we need to know what it looks like, which is why it's really important that we're going to talk about how do you build a scope and sequence of identifying which lessons are delivered at which grade level. And again, using a mapping tool so you can see where your gaps are. But that way we can always figure out who's doing what, and we're not doing the same lesson twice, which can happen. Some of us may have a social worker also involved, or we might have a community-based organization coming in and helping out, for example, with maybe some drug and alcohol awareness. So all of these are really important, and we need to consider them as part of the overall vision of what's in our curriculum. So many of our lessons are developed by certified school counselors in collaboration. Yes?
Do you mean to be sharing your PowerPoint?
Yes.
I don't see it.
Where did it go? Okay, let's stop. Let's go back and do another share. Back to full screen, share. So none of these popped up. Okay. Can we see them now? Okay. Well, I'm glad somebody told me. All righty, let me go back to full screen. I could see it, but you guys couldn't. Okay. So again, just coming back to a couple of things. Lessons, again, are developed by us in collaboration and consultation. How many of you, and you can just do a thumbs up, how many of you are developing lessons in collaboration with teachers in your school? Anybody? Some thumbs up? Do we see some thumbs up out there? Yeah. Thank you, Sharon. I can see your thumb. Perfect. Lessons are also delivered by teachers and other school professionals. We mentioned that. And then many of us have pieces of curriculum in place, or we're using a program school-wide, like a Second Step, like a Naviance. And then, of course, curriculum, the last bullet, needs to reflect the lessons that cover many important topics for our students. We might not deliver the same thing every year. we're going to want to go back and rethink it. Well, we think our students have a good handle on this in grades 4 and 5, but we need to do more with our third graders. So let's go to the next one. So how do you decide which lesson should be delivered? Well, let's see. You tell us. Anybody have a thought? How do you decide what lesson should be delivered? Want to drop that in chat? Anybody have an idea? A survey, yes, Allison, thank you. Anyone else? What they are going through, of course, especially since we are still consider ourselves post-COVID.
Needs assessment.
Needs assessments, yes. Parents, students, yes, needs assessments. And students too can tell us, and our teachers, of course. What does the data tell you? Is there anything in the attendance data, in the behavior data, in the academics, from teacher comments, kids not handing in homework on time, that tells us about some of the things we might need to do around the topic of academic development or executive functioning? Do you see gaps in SEL? So if you're using a program like Second Step, does that really cover it all? Or do some of us want to also add things around overcoming obstacles, which is a program, or even around restorative justice, and circles? And what do we know from our teachers' families that we need to work on with our kids? The needs assessment will certainly tell us that. So what can I use? Where are these resources to design a curriculum? So again, we have the ASCA Mindsets and Behaviors. And Dr. Rotunda, I'm going to remember to attach those so we can add that to the materials that we're going to send you tomorrow. We have CDOS, the Career Development and Occupational Standards. I'll be honest with you, they do need a refresher. They were developed a long time ago, but there's a lot of good ideas in there that we can update and modernize and contemporize. And then we have the SEL benchmarks. We also have the New York State Mental Health Standards and Benchmarks, and there are some good ideas in there also. Some of those are being taught by our health teachers, so it is a good idea for you to take a look at those. You have the school improvement goals that your principal develops with the leadership team every year, and those are really super important and gives us a lot of good ideas of things we need to work on. School data, we mentioned feedback, student needs, family and community needs. So what I do want to show you right away, I just have too many things covering up my screen here, is NYSCA put together, and it's been out a year, well, I guess at the right after the conference in 2021, NYSCA released a lesson repository, and we'll show you where that is on the website. And it was a collaboration, believe it or not, of my grad students, New York City Department of Ed and NYSCA, to begin to identify lessons so that you would not have to go out there and find a million lessons, that they were available, you could adapt them, you could adopt them, and you'd be able to organize them into building a developmental curriculum for your students. As of now, there's 312 lessons, and I'm going to open this up for you in just a second. I do want to caution you about one thing. When you look at the lessons, you might find something that doesn't sit right. We have just completed a review of 300 of the 312 to make sure that they are inclusive, that they are DEI respectful, and that they represent all students, and that was really important. But in the first round, we missed a couple, so we are carefully looking, and we do want to hear from you if something doesn't work well. Now, we've organized these lessons by grade level where we think they should go, and the we are school counselors from across New York State, as well as school counselors from New York City. So we plugged them in. So I'm going to right now open this up. Let me just get out of full screen, which it does not want to let me do. Here we go. And pull this out of the way. And I'm going to go to NYSCA.org. I'm going in the long way because I want you to see the website. There we go. Let's do it again. NYSCA. So everybody I know knows the NYSCA website. So we're going to go into NYSCA right now. I just have to move our faces out of the way. And if you look with me on the left, I told Bob it needs to be big and bold. You'll see the word curriculum. I'm going to click on curriculum. And lo and behold.
Carol, we're still seeing
Yes.
the slideshow, I think.
Okay, let me move it again. Somehow, I apologize. Usually my screen will move, but today I just have to keep doing a new share. No worries. We can see it now. Perfect. Okay. So NYSCA.org, over here to the word curriculum, click on it, and there we go. School counseling, K through 12 curriculum. Now, we know many of you are PK through 12, but New York State, in terms of the regulations and the curriculum, only talked about K-12. So we did not want to impose, nor did we build a pre-K curriculum. And I guess, Dr. Rotunda, that could be something we could look at doing in the future if there's a need for it. So here we go, online lesson plans, click here. And you'll see there's many different places. You can read the whole website, but I think the thing you're most interested in is, what do these lesson plans look like? So, and you can be following along, folks, while you're on Zoom. So you'll see, starting way down at the bottom, let me scroll more. 6th grade. We have all the way down to kindergarten. It's a little bit out of order. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6, 7, 8, and there we go, right through high school. Again, when we started this project, we did a national search of lessons. We went to all the state school counselor associations and state departments of education that had curriculum in place. North Carolina built theirs in 2002. Missouri built theirs in around 2008. They're in the process of redoing it right now. Let me think. Florida had a college and career curriculum. Connecticut had curriculum. New Jersey had curriculum. And so we went out there and we visited all the associations, the state departments of education, and organizations like the College Board, NACAC, National Association of College Admissions Counselors, Sanford Harmony, which is now called Harmony, CASEL. And so we went through all of the associations to figure out what's available, what grade levels should these be addressed in, and put them on a lesson plan template for you. Now, I tell you that because, again, you may look at a 6th grade lesson and say, that would be better for my 7th graders. But you have the ability to move these around and use them any way you want. So I'm going to click right now on 6th grade. And you can do that as I'm showing you. And you'll see the 3 areas: academic, social emotional development, and college and career readiness. Each time I open a tab, I'm getting 8 lessons. So there are 8 lessons for each area. And again, in an order that we thought might work, but it's not for you to have to deliver these in order. It's not for you to have to deliver every one of them. If you have a lot of lessons and you just want to organize it better, you pick and choose. If you're starting from scratch and you're a new counselor, this is going to be real helpful for you to pick as many of these lessons as you think might be helpful. So I'm going to click right now on lesson 2, A Day in the Life of Me. And Bob, did the lesson plan template come up? Okay, thank you guys, it's working. All righty. So here we go. It has a name, grade 6 academic. For us, for organizational purposes, it is lesson 2. It's a single lesson. It's not part of a unit. We called it research informed. And the reason we called it research informed is because we found it from a very trustworthy source. It's not a counselor-made lesson, which is a best practice, or a counselor-made action research lesson. We have our mindset and behavior standards selected. And then you can see, oh goodness gracious. See, I've already found a goof. It says academic development, but I clicked on SEL, a day in the life of me. So how smart are you? How are you smart? Students will discuss the definition of smart. So you can see, here we go, an introduction to the lesson, poses a question, and kind of an icebreaker, and then you'll share the lesson objectives. So we've written the script for you folks. Again, not to read it to you now, teaching the content, ask students to disagree or agree with the quote, encourage students to understand that SMART is a misunderstood concept. That's the whole idea of this lesson. We practice content that they're going to look at their own schedule, and they're going to fill out their worksheet on how they get themselves organized. Ask students to write 3 natural talents in their journal or on a piece of paper, and so on. Anticipated number of students, again, these were built for average classrooms, 30-ish, approximately 40 minutes. And then, here we go. The handout is attached. You have plenty of time on your own just to go through these. And guys, it is academic. That was my mistake. So academic was correct. I kept thinking, did I say SEL or academic? But most importantly, we know that here's a lesson that might be good for 6th graders. It might be good for 7th graders. It might be good for 8th graders. But you've got lots of resources here to pick and choose from. I'm just going to go back one, and you will see the same lessons. Here we go. 8 lessons under SEL. Bob, is it still flowing? Thank you. And we will see the same. I'm going to go back 1 to 6th grade, 8 lessons under college and career readiness. Same setup for 7th grade. Academic, SEL, CCR. And again, same for 8th grade. And 8th grade, I will also remind everybody that we put in some transition lessons. So when you are looking at these, at the NYSCA lesson repository, I do want you to keep in mind, if you see something, say something, because what's on the NYSCA website, and I'm going to do a new share, is not the updated, cleaned up lesson repository. We have not turned that over to NYSCA yet. Believe it or not, I still have 2 more 8th grade academic lessons to write. If anybody has a great idea, get in touch with me, because I'm running out of steam. But then again, and the Ask a Lesson Plan template is also here. And I'll just open it again for you so you can see what it looks like. That didn't open. So we'll just go back. And I will just do the new share then. Okay. So Bob, do you want to ask how many people know about these lessons?
I did. They're responding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope some people did. All righty, so I'm going to move down real quickly here. And again, I've shown you the lessons because we're just going to do one quick question. The school counseling curriculum can only be delivered by school counselors. True or false? What's everybody writing, Bob?
Got a lot of falses.
Okay, terrific. Absolutely, because we can collaborate with others. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and then I promise to come back. And I'm talking too much and I want to introduce our district director, Jeanette Alomia, and she's going to introduce her two rock and roll counselors, Allison Logan and, whoops, oh my goodness, Jessica, your name popped off. I failed slides. Jeanette, you want to jump in and I'll fix the slide right now?
No need because it's only Allison.
Okay, so, oh, that's why, I'm
Jessica's-
sorry. Jessica's right with Mary.
Mary's-
I'm thinking I goofed. Okay, thank you so much.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Jeanette Alomia, former NISCA VP for directors and supervisors. And I work here on Long Island, Suffolk County. My background is secondary, high school level, school counseling for over, I would say, almost 15 years before I took the plunge and became a director right before COVID in 2019. And so as I learned my new role and evaluated and assessed the needs of my newly found home here at Huntington, I quickly learned to be, flexible, but yet evolve with my team and enhance our comprehensive plan. Our district has a plan per building. So I don't know if that's a unique feature, but each building has its own. We have similarities in terms of school counseling programs, as well as some variations. I have 11 counselors, one at the primary level, who's quite busy conducting SEL, CCRs, and meeting with students, doing groups and conducting lessons. I have two middle school counselors. One is with us, Allison Logan, who has over 17 years of school counseling experience. Sorry, but we must celebrate that.
Absolutely.
And I feel old. And actually a very diverse background in terms of her experience working for the Department of Education for the New York City schools. And now this is, I believe we are in the 6th or 7th year here at Huntington, Allison, right? And then we have our bilingual counselor at the middle school who couldn't join us. She had a prior commitment. And I have 8 counselors with at the high school with one dedicated college office counselor, college advisor. And if you want to learn about our program, we will be tuning in tomorrow. And so like I said, our K through 12 comprehensive plan consists of many different features. And Allison will be talking to you about how she assesses her students' needs, how she pushes into the classroom, maybe any challenges, or how blessed we are that it's just a given that we are classroom practitioners and we go into the classroom to deliver meaningful and research-based curriculum and lessons. And so I will, without further ado, introduce to you to my middle school counselor, Mrs. Allison Logan.
Hi, how are you all? Very happy to be here. Like Jeanette said, my name is Allison Logan. I've been a school counselor now for 17 years. I actually started my career on Long Island with Dr. Bob Rotunda, great director of guidance. and will end my career here on Long Island, and did about 10 or 11 years in New York City in between. So I started off at the middle school. I'm at the middle school now. And when I was in New York City, I was at the high school. So I have a nice experience with both age groups. I do feel like I like middle school a little bit more. They are sometimes a little trickier, but I really do enjoy being able to go into the classrooms. So we have large caseloads, but we are very lucky that we're able to meet individually with students at the very least once, twice a year, but usually it's a lot more than that. We are able to go into the classroom, I would say at least 2-3 times a year if we're lucky. We go into the classrooms for our 7th and 8th graders specifically to show them Naviance. So in 7th grade, our 7th graders are not familiar with Naviance. So we essentially created a lesson plan to show them what the platform is all about. And that's really something that I love to do, connecting with younger kids and helping them try to link their interests with school, with classes, and with what may be in the future. Even activities within the school or summer activities and things like that. So when we introduce Naviance, it is kind of just a general overview of the website and what it is. There is a wonderful portion of it, some of you may know, called Road Trip Nation, that we always show them. We try to find different kinds of individuals on Road Trip Nation, but what this particular area of the website does is it shows snippets, minute, 2 minute, 3 minutes of interviews with professionals in all different fields, all different walks of life, all over the country, all over the world. So there's always students who can connect either visually or economically, financially, just in any way, shape, or form where they could see themselves as this person. And they go into detail about how they were able to become the CEO of Starbucks, let's say. And so that gets kids really excited about it. And so we have them create a couple of goals when we do this. We show them how we as the counselors are able to assign a task to them, which may be to begin, creating a resume, even something simple as if they're on the Junior Honor Society at Findlay, to begin to kind of keep track of what they're doing, that they will ultimately utilize at the high school for college. We do the same thing with our 8th grade students, although we delve a bit deeper. We do a little more of the career search. We do college searches for those kids who are interested. We do workforce searches as well. And the website is such a plethora of information. You literally can see how many years of education you need. Where would you be most likely to get this particular job if you were looking into physical therapy or biology? How much money you would make based on where you live in the country. And it really gets kids excited about thinking about the future and what they may want to do. We do, again, assign 2 different goals, and then we begin to really kind of jump into creating a brag sheet or that resume. We also go into the classrooms to sign our 8th grade students up for their 9th grade electives. And we've created a lesson plan and a PowerPoint presentation for them on that. That could be its own presentation. We do try to squeeze that into a 40-minute period, which is tough because there's so many wonderful electives at the high school. And this is really the first time students are able to decide for themselves what they want to take, whether they want to continue with music, what kind of an art class they want to take. Maybe they want to take a business class or a criminal justice class. So again, we really help them understand the choices that they're making. We explain to them all about the high school and the process of creating classes. And then we're able to sit down with them one-on-one a little bit later on and kind of go over those choices with them individually. So those are some of the I'd say highlights of what we do. Of course, in the guidance department, it's never a dull moment. So there are students coming down all the time with any kind of difficulties they have. When we are able to run groups, we do. Attendance is, something that I'm beginning to track. Throughout the last few years, we have seen a lot of difficulties mental health wise or anxiety wise in relation to COVID. And my colleague is fluent in Spanish, and we do have about a 60% population of students who speak Spanish. So it's wonderful. She has a small group of ENL students just to kind of help them acclimate and feel comfortable to Finley, because for some of them, it's been the first time they've ever come to this country. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think, what else was I supposed to be going over?
Well,
Sorry.
you also talk about every 5 to 6 weeks with when you have meetings with the team, such as teachers to review students'
Oh,
academic.
right, of course. Well, of course, we, monitor academics, and we're always going through students, through our caseload quarterly at the very least, when report cards and progress reports come out. So that's very helpful in identifying students who are in need of some support academically. Sometimes that conversation turns into an emotional need or a need for counseling. We do go in for team meetings. Our school has 6 different teams. And those teams, each of our, group of students fits into a particular team. We have 7th grade teams and 8th grade teams. And so we will go into each team every 5 or 6 weeks to discuss any high risk students that the teachers may see, typically academically, but sometimes, things do come up where they're concerned about the affect of a student, or, they feel like a kid just really needs a little bit of talking to. So that's very helpful, because they're the ones seeing them every day. So they bring a lot to our attention, and a lot of them have a wonderful amount of experience, so they can share with us if a student needs further RTI intervention, whether that might be, a weekly progress report, or whether they think we should IST a student, which is instructional support team. And we kind of then take it to another level and go over with the school psychologist and the social worker and the team of teachers what we can do to best support this student. We meet with students and they may need, like I said, the weekly progress report, or they may need a check-in, check-out, which is basically a small behavior form that they sort of an incentive program where we can identify a few of the top behaviors that we need to work on eliminating, and then they can bring that down to guidance, and we offer them an incentive. So of course, we're always talking with parents, trying to get parents in to help support us so we can make a plan together. That's the best way. And we work very closely with admin as well. Our administrative staff are super supportive. And whenever there is anything that we need to tackle, we generally do it as a team. We meet once a week with our mental health group. So that is with all of the mental health team, the social worker, psychologists, the dean, the assistant principal, the principal, and we are able to discuss our high-risk students who need more support than, let's just say, the general student, that we really need to keep an eye on a weekly basis. Whether they have counseling at the school, whether they have counseling outside. And then lastly, one of the wonderful things that we have at Finley is Family Service League. Family Service League is an outside agency that works in our building, and we can recommend very high-risk students who maybe their parents would not be able to take them to counseling, don't have the transportation, maybe they don't have insurance. Maybe unfortunately they're just not able because of whatever other reasons in the family. And so we can connect these very high-risk students to our Family Service League provider. She also meets with us in our mental health meetings. So really is a wonderful team.
Thank you, Allison. Yeah, no, it really is an amazing team. And I don't want to cut you off because we'll have time for Q&A, but I want to make sure we can get Mary and her 2 counselors in to talk about their school counseling curriculum at the middle school level. So stay put, because I'm sure we're going to have questions for you. Thank you. Perfect. Mary, would you like to introduce your team? Let me just see if I can get this to the next slide. There we go. We all have so much to talk about when it comes to our programs. It's fabulous.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Banaszak. I am a school counselor at Victor High School, and I am coordinator of counseling for grades K through 12 in our district. We have 16 counselors across the district, 5 social workers and 12 school psychs who support our students. Our counselors work really closely with our psychs and social workers and admin as a team. And we typically support students in different ways in each building. Our in the high school, we're alphabetically driven by our teams, and in the junior high, there are color teams and grade levels. I've been at Victor for 34 years, and I couldn't be more proud to introduce you to two of our outstanding junior high counselors, Justy Ambrosia and Amy Noy. These two ladies have been exceptional at creating lesson plans for their comprehensive guidance plan. And really the lessons they've done, I've seen snippets of on social media, and I'm like, oh, I want to see that lesson. I want to see what you did there. They've really tapped into the resources of what the students' needs are and what the school's needs are, working closely with their admin. So I'll turn it over to Jess and Amy to share how they present their comprehensive school counseling plan.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Again, I'm Amy Noy. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. And as you can see, the building that Jessica, myself, and we have one other counselor, so there's 3 of us, are representing. We service students in grades 7 and 8, and we stay with those students for 2 years when they enter the junior high school and when we transition them out over to Mary at the high school. Our building has about 650 kids, so our caseloads are pretty nice. We're very fortunate. It's around 220 per counselor, and they stay on a team for their core classes, so the school feels a little bit smaller, and they get to know those students in those core classes pretty well. So it creates a nice little like home base for them almost still before they developmentally go over to the high school. We are part of a PPS team, which is comprised of administrators, social workers, a school nurse, school psychologist, even our security officer. And we meet weekly, so we really can have our finger on the pulse of what the student needs are, the building needs are, and also the community needs. So our SEL counseling lesson and curriculum is a set framework, but we can also be very flexible depending on what those needs are at any given moment. So we do have some set lessons that we go to from year to year. But I will say the biggest thing that helps us implement these lessons is having the understanding, the support, the trust of our administration. They're integral, and our teachers follow suit, and they are so cooperative and always welcome us and give up their time so we can meet with our students as regularly as we would really like to. So it's important to have that. And we feel very comfortable. It's a very reciprocal, altruistic relationship, I think, in our building that we're fortunate to have. So for example, one of the counseling lessons that's pretty standard is the beginning of the year, we do conflict resolution with our students. To start them off with a strong foundation, some resources, some tools, so they can eventually become independent problem solvers. And then we can refer back to those resources and tools when they eventually come meet with us, if there's situations that arise, problems, of course, so we can be using that same common language together. So we feel like that's very important to have set up in the beginning of a school year. And we balance our lessons and curriculum with Naviance and also Panorama, which is a new program to our district, which we've been using. And they have a lot of resources there. We actually used a survey and surveyed our entire junior high school population so we could better tailor our curriculum this year based on the results that came through a survey. And we added some different lessons. We're going to be doing self-awareness in the spring, which the data showed was a high need for our students in self-management. So that is important to have some type of tracking data, we feel. We also partner with administration, not just during our set lessons, but as needs arise. We saw this year, unfortunately, there were some issues with discrimination and racism. So we came together and we went into the classrooms with administration and delivered lessons on sensitivity, acceptance, racism. And we shared that lesson with the high school as well, just so they understand what we're doing and how they can follow up. So it's nice that we have that reciprocal relationship as well. if there's a book that a teacher is going to be using in the classroom, we've had teachers come up and ask if we can go deliver classroom lessons on that content, which might be very sensitive to students. So they have a little bit more self-awareness and understanding of themselves and others before they delve into that subject matter. So it's a lot of cooperation, which I think is crucial in the overall success of our students. And now I think Jess is going to talk a little bit about the transition work that we do with our students and how we prepare them for coming into our building, the lessons we do, and how we get them ready and transition out.
Thanks, Amy. So I'm Jess D'Ambrosio. This is my third year at Victor Junior High School. As Mary and Amy mentioned, we are a grade 7-8 building, which is kind of unique in the sense that we are always every year transitioning a group of students in. At the same time, we're transitioning a group of students out. So we always kind of have that work to do with the buildings that follow us. So we start, our 7th grade orientation is pretty extensive. It starts now. We've already conducted our parent night for our 6th grade parents that really welcome them into the junior high and give them a taste of what secondary education looks like and the supports that they can expect from any SEL providers in the district. I think that's really important. Our parents do come in person now that we're kind of free from COVID restrictions. I think it puts their mind at ease to see the building, to see our faces and have that chance to ask any questions. And we do conduct that parent night with our administration. So again, just kind of touching on Amy's point that we are really lucky to always have their support and have that collaborative relationship with them where we go back and forth to meet those needs. Another thing that I think has been super helpful is connecting with the 6th grade counselors to discuss, students that may be extra needy that we might want to flag. As Amy mentioned, we're a teamed building, so we have 3 teams. It's really helpful for us just to set students up for success by teaming them appropriately. So when we have, spread the wealth evenly so that those students are really getting their needs met on each team, and we're not really loading one team with a really academically needy caseload or a really emotionally needy caseload. And we kind of all tag team that process together. That's been very helpful. In August, we always have our students come in for their 7th grade orientation. We ask current junior high students to help with that process. Again, just kind of making it more relatable. I think the more we can get students involved in welcoming other students, just the better environment it sets up for everybody. And that's really led by counselors. In the summertime, we do 3 different orientation sessions by team, and we just acclimate them to the junior high, give them an opportunity to walk around the school. In our building, this is the first time they have lockers, and that always seems to be a point of high excitement and stress. So that we spend quite a bit of time doing that. But just those are kind of our basics in our 7th grade transition. And then we can take a quick look just with our 8th grade transition, our 8-9. That's always a big jump. I think parents feel some anxiety, right? Like students are now starting to work for credits. Students now kind of get that choice in what they're taking. So that's always a big decision for them. And again, we really partner with the high school to help navigate those changes. So we set up yearly meetings sometime in the spring with the high school counselors to review our caseload. So they're kind of aware of the students that they're inheriting and have the appropriate supports in place. They have some awesome programs at the high school for our needier kids, and we want to make sure that those students are set with that schedule right from the start and they have those support people in place. We partner with the high school where they come into the junior high and kind of give that overview presentation to our 8th graders, really breaking down, high school requirements, credits, all that fun stuff. And then we do meet with our 8th grade students to actually pick their course selection. So that's kind of a nice partnership. They meet with us as familiar faces, but get that general overview from their future counseling team. And again, that part is really counselor driven. I think admin help deliver some of the messages, but that's pretty much on our plate. That's I would say the big picture from transition. And then I don't know, Carol, if you want to take it back over. I don't know if we're at the point of questions. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm just going to take it for 2 more minutes and then we'll go into Q&A. How's that? So thank you, both teams, our Victor team and our Huntington team. It is appreciated. I'm just going to jump down. I just wanted to show everybody one slide. Let me just put the share up, make sure it's going to work. Okay, here we go. So just a reminder to everybody that this is a tier 1 activity, and we really need to do as many tier 1s to get to know our kids as best as possible. And as our 3 middle school counselors shared with us, you know, we've got a variety and many different ways, Allison and Amy and Jessica, of reaching them and making sure that we've got them with us. At Victor for 2 years, and of course in Huntington, you guys have them for 3. So I'm just going to run down here to the very end. I just didn't want to skip over things. And I'm going to, while we are getting ready for Q&A, I'm going to ask everybody if they could drop in chat that one step that they feel they could do now that's going to be helpful to them getting to build their curriculum. Whoops, here we go. It dropped up for next year. What's one thing that you heard about, or one thing you can do, or one thing that would be helpful to do now as you start planning ahead to build your curriculum for next year? And I'm also going to drop in the chat before we go into Q&A, the exit ticket. Folks, we need your feedback. We actually ran out of time today, but we're going to hang out for a few minutes, if that's good, with our presenters, in case anybody has a specific question. Okay, all right. Review the SEL lesson plans. Excellent. Laura, yes, find those NISCA lesson plans and use them. Use what you can use. Awesome. And while people are dropping that in chat, they're what they can do now to get ready for next year. Let's see if we have any questions for our presenters. And I'll put this one up right here. Just a reminder. We always need to remind ourselves, counselors are very humble people, how important we are to the lives of those we meet. How important you are to each other in this room for your sharing, and that at every meeting, you've given of yourself, you've given something of yourself. And a particular big shout out to Allison, Amy, Jessica, Mary, and Jeanette for joining us. Do we have any questions coming up, folks? And then guys, please complete the exit ticket so we know what you're gonna need next. Any questions at all for our presenters?
Not yet.
Not yet. That means you guys did an awesome job.
Oh, do you run groups? That's a good question.
Say again?
Leslie put in, do you run groups? Do you run groups?
Who's that directed to? Any of our presenters?
Yeah.
I can jump in. We run groups really when there is a need for them. A lot of times our social worker will run those just because she is a little bit more cross-team in nature. So we pair students in groups by need, not necessarily just by convenience of like their schedules and things like that. But a lot of times it would be a partnership, like we could run a group with our social worker. We'll have students that eat lunch with us on a somewhat regular basis, and that's kind of like an informal group. That's kind of our approach with it. More short term. There's nothing too long term that we would provide.
And I think Allison, you shared that you were running some groups also.
Sorry, I was muted there. Again, when we can, absolutely. Like I said,
Mhm.
the ENL population has a small group, and I have in the past had some attendance groups, or even some newcomer groups, with kids coming in, let's say in October or November. I've had groups of 5 and 6 kids just coming, just to kind of help them meet one another and get acclimated.
Thank you. And so, Dr. Rotunda, do you want to give people instructions about what they're going to get tomorrow?
So tomorrow, since you attended, you'll get a certificate of attendance. You'll get links to the recording of this, link to the exit ticket if you haven't had a chance to do it, to the PowerPoint and to the chats. So you can see if anybody put anything in the chat to link to. We've got tomorrow our final curriculum workshop for high school counselors. If you've got some high school counselors you want to send along, registration is still open. Yep, any questions? All right,
Looking good.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mary, Jeanette, our presenters, if you want to hang for 2 minutes. And then we'll allow our folks to sign off. And then we'll let you go too. I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. Thank you, everybody, for coming today.
It's really interesting to see. One thing that caught my ear was Victor's got about 350 kids in a grade. When I was there, we were 80 or 90 when I was a kid. So that's kind of cool.
Gee, Bob, things change, don't they?
Yeah,
Yikes.
all those dairy farms are now housing projects. Anyway.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that caught my ear. And it's really, everybody brought up, everyone is talking about the same things. We're talking a big priority for NISCA this year is we call it the collective care team. It's counselors, psychologists, social workers, and school nurses. We're beating that drum this year because there's not enough. It takes a village. I mean, I'm talking to the choir here. So that's a big priority for this year. So it's good to hear that it's kind of getting there. It's kind of getting there. I know that places I work, like South Huntington, we always had that. We always had that advantage. It was just like, why wouldn't you do that? But it's not everywhere.
And the other great thing, Bob, as you're saying, is the fact that with our collaborative care teams,